So another disappointing day for Norwich City on the road at the CBS Arena. Obviously 1-0 up. I felt he had just complete lack of composure on the ball, sort of really struggled to sort of manage the game at 1-0 up. Reminded me a lot of the Stoke game at Carrow Road a couple of weeks ago in many respects, sort of, real sort of inability to keep the ball or any sort of real game management, which I thought we did execute quite well against Birmingham last weekend, but sort of, really struggled there, and it felt like that goal was always coming. It's a difficult one to take, and it really feels like we're struggling for consistency under David Wagner, particularly in the absence, obviously, of Josh Sargent and Ashley Barnes, which, is difficult to pin all the blame on. But that said, obviously started the season incredibly well, obviously the first 5 or 6 games, and I think the loss of them has been important. And I think, given sort of the last sort of couple of weeks and sort of the results now, it's obviously an inability to win in the last 5 games, I think, on the road, 4 of them being defeats. I think it's really going to be a case over the next few weeks of sort of clinging on and staying as close to that top 6 as possible until sort of Barnes comes back in that November international break and Sargent over the festive period. I'd be inclined not to overreact too much at this point. I still think, that I've seen enough from this side to suggest that with a fully fit squad, especially with Borja Saints and a couple of others to come back as well, obviously Marcelino Nunez, I still think we have the potential to be up there, but that said, there's still a few things to be concerned about, particularly that sort of inability to manage the game at 1-0 up. So not throwing my toys out the pram just yet, and there are a few sort of ugly scenes in the away end at full time there, but that said, not a huge amount to cheer about from a Norwich City perspective today.
Norwich continue to play that high risk, high reward strategy of playing out from the back, looking to play between the lines, but all too often a misplaced pass or an individual error led to a high turnover, putting pressure on that Norwich defence. They just about held firm. Eder also seemed isolated up top, with Coventry winning a lot of the second balls, and the balls and the pressure just kept going back towards that Norwich goal. However, with about 41 minutes on the clock, it was Johnny Rowe, of course, who popped up to reward that persistence and score again, his 7th goal of the season. Great play by Jack Stacey on the right-hand side. Persistence as well, and the ability to get his head up and pick out Rowe just outside the 6-yard box. And with his 12th touch of the first half, which shows you how little he was involved up to that point, he put Norwich City in front. For more or less the exact spot in the second half, he made a brilliant recovery run to deny Coventry an equaliser with a last-ditch tackle. That was fantastic work, and I said it came pretty much in exactly the same spot where he'd scored. So showing that side of his game as well, which I'm sure delighted his manager. Norwich actually took a bit more control of the possession middle part of the second half. Coventry fans were getting frustrated until a triple substitution by Mark Robins changed the game. Just seemed to push Norwich back. They sat really, really deep. Hwang was on by that point of time, even more isolated, and couldn't hold the ball up at all. And as I said, it was just a constant pressure, which finally gave in when the ball flashed into the box, was diverted into his own net by Ben Gibson, unfortunately, past a stranded Angus Gunn. Although Gunn did make a brilliant save from Shane Duffy, who tried to repeat that trick and score an own goal of his own. But an amazing point-blank save from Gunn made sure that Norwich actually left with a point, and it certainly would be classified as a point gain rather than 2 lost, I think, considering 43% possession for the Canaries and only 6 shots compared to Coventry's 21. So they'll go back to Norfolk and reward those 3,000 Norwich City fans. Fair play to them, having seen Norwich lose 4 successive games, finally go back to Norfolk with at least a point.